Welcome, everybody. We'll get started. Um, um, and by the way, Caesar is our guest speaker today. He was called away to Chicago unexpectedly, so he may or may not be joining us. But I should start by saying, of course, the meeting has started. It's getting recorded. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order at 7:34. I'm going to move that we approve the March 27th meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes on those meeting minutes? Okay,
Yeah.
so I move that we accept them.
Second.
Okay, we'll accept the meeting then, and we will go right into Officer Tagorda, who I imagine had a pretty busy holiday weekend.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here, sir.
and not a problem, guys. How's everybody doing? Um, I mean, I know you guys like to talk about numbers and everything like that, so I pulled up some stats, or I had our crime analysis pull up some stats for the last past 30 days. They look actually pretty good, should I say. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, total calls for service, it looks like in the past 30 days is 238 calls for service, right? But the number of incident reports in the past 30 days is 15. I mean, that's pretty darn good. And no calls from the Todd Hotel, so that's a good thing too. At least not when I was on shift. But as far as the top 10 incidents that were reported is that we had thefts. We had like 6 thefts within the past 30 days, and that's going to be all related to the wire theft, which is running rampant throughout the city. They're cutting wire all over the place. Chevron had an incident where they were cutting wire, but we did make an arrest on that. Down by the beach, they were cutting wire down by the beach. They cut wire by the dog park. And then off of Regatta by the police station, the PG&E building down there, they were cutting wires. There was 4 vehicle thefts within the last 30 days and 3 auto burgs. But those were the top reports for the Point Richmond area within the last 30 days. So, I mean, compared to the previous months, I think that's pretty darn good. Any questions?
Yes, I have a comment and a question. My name's Jessie West. I was formerly co-chair of the Neighborhood Watch Group a few years ago. My comment is, I just have to shrug my shoulders when you say very few incident reports, because we just don't even bother anymore, frankly. We used to always call, and even a few years ago, it's like, oh, nobody come out, or just report it online. And, it's just like got to the point where like, nothing's going to happen anyway. So I just really think those numbers are bogus, and except for the more serious ones, which do get reported. But as Captain Tyrone used to say, even the police don't really care about property crime. So we got that message finally loud and clear. But that's my comment. My question is, I wonder how they cut the wire. Do they climb up a pole? Do they open something in the ground and access it? Could you tell us how that happens?
So what they're doing, they're using a strap to basically lasso the wire and pull it down, and then from there they use a sawzall to go in and cut the wire. And
So there's enough slack. There's enough slack they can lasso it and pull it down from the pole.
Yes, so if you would just drive down by the beach, you can actually see how the wires kind of sag low. So they're going after the fiber optics, and the copper mainly. So that's how they're doing it.
And the metal companies around here are buying it from them?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Ever do sting operations on the metal companies?
Well, it's really hard. I mean, when I was working property crimes, when I was a detective, We try to work with like Sims Metal and some of the local recycling facilities. But the problem with that, it's really hard to identify the metal because what the thieves are doing is once they cut the wire, they sell it to a third party who then strips down the wire, melts it down, and then now they're just bringing big chunks of, you know, metal, right? And there's really no way to track it. So, and
Okay.
again, you know, our judicial system right now is very lackadaisical, I would say, when it comes to certain crimes or property crimes. So it's not, you know, to comment back on you, ma'am, it's not that
Yes.
police don't care about property crimes, it's the state. So under Prop 47, everything went haywire. So um again, I'm sorry you feel that way. The police try to do what they can to address the issues within the city, but as you know, there's budget cuts. We're trying to beef up our numbers with the police. We don't have enough police personnel to address certain things, and that's why the city created an online report, you know, because a lot of times property crimes, just people just want to report those for their insurance companies. There's really no suspects to go off of or try to look for. So that's
Well,
why the online reports were created.
okay, I get that, and I'll shut up after another 30 seconds. But you know, this was Captain Tyrone. I don't know what he is now, lieutenant or something. But
No,
he
he's
said,
retired, ma'am.
okay, he said we met one on one, and he said, you know, Jesse, uh, he said, I really get how property crime probably affects most people more than even violent crime because it happens to so many more people. He said it's happened to me, and he said, but a lot of the police officers just don't preference it. Now I get it about Prop 47. I didn't vote for it. I hate it. I get it totally, but I do, you know, and I realize also that you've got limited resources right now, and we all know why. We wish you didn't. We wish you were more supported by the city council. So I retract my, you know, total blaming of you guys, but I think there is an attitude. Like my car was felony vandalized, and you know, back then a CSI team was sent out. Nobody was caught or anything. I finally figured out who it was from a videotape, but
I don't know. It
it's the
doesn't
district
say very
attorney too. It's, you know, it's the district attorney. I get all that, but it's very, my bottom line is you can't say, oh, this is great, crime is down. It isn't. It's just not being reported. That's really my bottom
Well,
line.
we're just talking about Point Richmond, ma'am. So Point Richmond, as compared to the rest of the city, doesn't have nearly the numbers that, let's say, you know, over there off of McDonald, 23rd and Mac. The
Yep.
numbers are not there. So we're strictly speaking about Point Richmond numbers, which the
Right.
numbers are drastically down as compared to the rest of the city, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. But it sure is up compared to 20 years ago or even 10 years ago.
I'm sure.
But yeah, but that's good news about the Todd. That's a fantastic.
Um, I'm going to make a comment on the topic of the copper wire before we go to Edie and I guess Kathleen. Um, just so you know, one of the challenges that we've had, which includes and Lisa and I have spent a lot of time working with the city and Caltrans on this. Part of its jurisdictional is that they are taking the copper wire is often stolen or trafficked through the unhoused population. So it is not uncommon for that copper wire to go under the freeway at Tewksbury and Railroad, and they burn the rubber coating off in bonfires because it's much faster than physically stripping it. And so just so you know, if you smell toxic smoke or see it, please call the fire department. The Hotel Mac and some of the surrounding businesses and restaurants do have trouble because there is this toxic black smoke of burning insulation happening. So I just wanted to let people know what that is, because if you go on social media, they're going to blame Chevron. But if you look at it, it's coming from under the freeway. Edie, you had a question.
Yeah, I did. I was actually, you might have just addressed it. When you say copper wire, you are talking about specifically our electrical lines, or is it other kinds of copper wire, like uh, uh, extension cords, like individual personal extension cords or anything that they find? Is it just for my own edification of whether I need to worry about my extension cords?
No, what they're really targeting is the AT&T. A lot of the lines that they're cutting from the telephone poles are AT&T, and so you will see a lot of AT&T trucks on the side of the roads, which are trying to repair the damage caused by the thieves. Now, lately, you may have heard that they're also targeting the Tesla charging stations. So far, we haven't been hit because there's a Tesla charging station over at CVS off of Meeker. They haven't hit that one, but that's starting to be an uptick throughout the state.
Oh, so it's throughout the state because I need that Tesla charger. So
yeah, so it's throughout the state. So it's
all
actually
right.
I wouldn't just say the state. It's actually happening all over. So it's starting to become a big thing now with these because that's a huge thick
That's
wire.
a lot of copper in those.
Yeah, exactly. So now they're cutting those. But I've spoken to a lot of the AT&T folks that are repairing the wire, and I was even curious as to what what they're trying to do. And it's really hard. It's really hard there's no really way you can to keep track of the wire or tag the wire or anything like that. So it's really hard. It's just one of those things, I mean, we've caught a couple of people in the act, and our DAs actually filed charges on some of these folks. But yeah, it's a huge problem throughout the state.
Thank you, Officer Tagorda.
Yep.
Was it Kathleen or Joe? You're muted, Joe. Joe, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm not now. No, we go out to Point Melody, and all of the AT&T wire has been stripped. The technique is to either use a fishing line or a bow to shoot monofilament over the cable, followed by a heavy rope attached to a car bumper or a truck bumper. Then they pull the whole thing down and as the policeman said, cut it with a sawzall. And all of the AT&T wire from Richmond Bridge all the way to the yacht harbor has been stripped. The solution is, this is very, very thin wire. It's probably not much thicker than heavy sewing thread, but there are hundreds of strands in the cable. And the solution is to prohibit recycling companies from buying this sort of wire. And then there'll be no market for it. And the problem should go away. But as it stands now, like it was said, they take the cable, they burn it to remove all the insulation, and they're left with these very thin strands of copper wire. And if we prohibit the recycling company like Sims from buying this stuff, the problem should go away. Okay.
Thanks, Joe. James.
Are they still targeting street lighting? Or is it
Street lighting, what do you mean?
street lights? Like on the parkway, or should I say the dark way? It's
Are you
kinda like
talking
that.
about the lights itself, or are you talking
Oh,
about
no, the wire,
Yeah.
the wire.
They're targeting wherever they can get their grubby hands on, they will. They've actually even went underneath the ground, pulling manhole covers to access some of the wire.
Yeah, the pull boxes.
Yep.
Dude, in Florida, they're breaking into homes that have just been
Yeah.
finished being constructed, but have yet to be sold, and they strip
Yeah.
all the wire out.
They're stripping all the copper. Yep.
It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. Thank you for filling us in on that. I'm not sure there's much more the neighborhood council can do about it, but it's nice to know that we should keep our eyes open, and if weird stuff is happening around poles or wires, to
Yeah,
call you
absolutely.
at once,
Absolutely.
because those of you might remember, we had to work on Railroad Avenue 3 times in 1 year. And that cost the city a fortune, and they only have a handful a staff to fix that, because those were city light posts. But thank you. Do we have any more questions for Officer Tagorda before he heads home to his loving family? I do want to comment on something that I've had a lot of calls and mostly phone calls about. One of the local businesses declared and advertised that our neighborhood yard sale was reinstated. They probably meant well, but they did so without realizing that the community kind of canceled making that a big event because it was getting out of control. This year, it was pretty good in terms of the cleanup at the end and what people left, but every single red zone in Point Richmond was parked in, including all of the red zones along Judge Carroll Park, which is an emergency evacuation route. And there were three that I noticed, three unlicensed food barbecues set up. What do you call them? People with grills with those kitchens, and dozens of vendors who came in. It is the reason why the community kind of unofficially ended that. And at this particular time, there was no community benefit. In the past, and this may be before your time, in the past, this was a fundraiser for our local playhouse. And as it got out of control, we realized that the neighbors weren't selling anything else. People who lived downtown, like Jesse West, were fleeing to higher ground. We had a specific situation where an elderly woman couldn't find parking within 2 blocks of the dog park when visiting her friends. And she finally found a parking space, and then at Judge Carroll Park. And then the woman fell on the way. Now, the fact that she fell is nobody's fault. You know, it was an unfortunate situation. I did the best I could. I'm speaking to you, but I'm also speaking to the community. When I found out about this, because this was declared, publicized, there was a map produced, there was advertisement downtown, I was on vacation. And I didn't see it until late Saturday night. So Sunday, I will say, I was very happy that Lieutenant Decius was kind enough to pass the information on. It's up to the community when we call a community event to make sure that the city knows and approves. So I want to take I can't take responsibility for what happened, but it wasn't your fault. But I do want to say that if any of you decide that you want to call a community event, please go through the PRNC so we can reach out to the police and find out whether or not they have the manpower to respond. So when people are sarcastic or rude about the police, they should go and send these people out. Well, the police didn't know they were there. And, you know, clearing our parks, we're talking about hundreds of people from out of town. Nobody there was from our community, selling stuff and throwing stuff. We need to be able to communicate and not have an expectation that Officer Tagorda is going to do an I Dream of Jeannie thing and all of a sudden be able to clear this out. Luckily, I would say nothing really bad happened except for those community members who wanted to enjoy peace and quiet in their community. And dog walkers, you know, who wanted to be able to utilize the Judge Carroll as a dog park. So I just felt a need. I didn't know where to place this, but I just wanted to let you know that was not PRNC. No community organization sponsored that. And
Hey, Philip, what did you have to go through to clean it up? I was really sorry. I was too sick to even go down and
I didn't do it.
my.
I didn't
didn't-
do it. It was, I said I wouldn't do it. I don't know whether or not the business had volunteers or if it just went well.
I asked the
Um,
business to monitor it. I explained what about, you know, us filling not reams, but boxes of heavy duty contractor bags in the past of heavy watermelon rinds and all kinds of unsold junk. And I asked them to be please go down and talk to the vendors and then check afterwards, but I was too sick to follow up. So,
Yeah, I'm very curious for those of you who are around. I know that I've been doing this for 30 years, and making this something that brings vendors in from all over the Bay Area to sell on our streets has never benefited my personal yard sale, nor does no business has ever said that they benefited from these mobs. So my personal thing, this is me speaking personally, is that this doesn't become a community event. And people have them if they want to have yard sales and they're responsible. But I just wanted to cover that. And to Officer Gord, I know that you may have received some cryptic information from, Donovan Deschutes to keep an eye on that. And we fully understood that it would not be possible for one beat officer to deal with 100 illegal vendors.
Yeah, I drove down when I could in between calls for service. As you already know, there's only 3 officers that work the south side during the day. So in between calls for service, I would drive through, and there was a lot of folks. And I saw and noticed that parking was pretty congested. Our parking enforcement officers are, unfortunately, we only have 3 parking enforcement officers for the entire city during the day. But I try to make my presence known. But yeah,
And that I was not there to see that happening. That
Yeah.
may have accounted for the fact that largely they cleaned up after themselves this time.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
It
Everybody
was
seemed pretty
better.
respectful, but there was a lot of folks there that you can definitely tell they weren't from the neighborhood. So
Oh, we know our small community. None of those folks in the
Yeah.
park were from the
Yeah.
neighborhood. And we
Yeah.
had it at the playground as well. Well, thank you. Any last questions? Because I keep, encouraging us to let him go and then talking more. Anybody else, Anna?
Um, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just curious, because I'm one of the people who really enjoys that event, and I did not realize it wasn't kind of sanctioned before. I had no idea. Is there a way, if it proliferates in the future, that, and I don't know the business that publicize, to mandate that it's only for Point Richmond resident, the only people that can sell are Point Richmond residents, and if people showed up, they will be, I don't know, I can't say they're going to be escorted, but it's only open to people who live in Point Richmond who wish to sell as a garage sale.
Right.
don't
This
know
is,
the-
I can give you the history of that, and I'd like to let Officer Tagorda
Yes, absolutely. Tell me later.
go home. So, and we have time because she's not here today to review the history of that. We can say whatever we want, but if we can't enforce it, which clearly we can't, that's the brief answer.
It's a moot
Yes,
point.
Joe or Kathleen again?
I just wanted to say I was downtown today and the sandwich board at the Indian Fountain advertising the event is still up.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. That business owner probably meant well. But I do know that that business owner does whatever she wants and has been invited to reach out to different community organizations. We feel that if there's going to be a community event, the community needs to benefit and not just one specific business promoting themselves. Officer Tagorda, thank you so much for being here. And as always, thanks for serving. I'm sure this was a hellacious weekend for all of our emergency responders. And we'll see you next month, perhaps.
okay, you guys have a great evening. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much. So this meeting's just going to go in a little bit of a different direction from the itinerary or the agenda, which is great. I'm going to go into the president's report, and then I'll say a few things. We'll go for the other reports. Actually, the treasurer's not here. We'll hear from Eric, and then I'll just pass on some information. All of it fabulous news from Caesar. I just want to point out a couple of things. One of the things was to talk about that particular yard sale. which, by the way, in case people think I'm grouchy, before it got out of hand was my very favorite day of the year in Point Richmond. We had parties and barbecues, and we met our neighbors, and we raised thousands for the Playhouse. So I want to make sure you know that I'm not grouchy. I do want to point out that the dues are due in the month of May. If you haven't paid your dues, would you please go to pointrichmond.org if you have PayPal? And at pointrichmond.org, you click on membership and you can pay in 1 second using PayPal, or the same old PO box, which is PO Box 70386. Lisa, can you put that in the chat for me? PO Box 70386 at the 94801 at the local post office. And any of you live in my neighborhood, knock on my door and hand me a check. I'm happy to take it. Please make it out to the PRNC. Okay.
How
yard
much
sale.
money do we write the check to you for?
It's $20 per person or $25 per household.
Okay.
All righty. We have a couple of exciting things happening. Finally, and I don't want to be impatient at all, Michelle Malam has worked really carefully with us. We are going to have a live crime prevention meeting, like the old days, at the community center. I don't have the exact times yet. It's going to be a Saturday morning, June 29th, coffee with a cop, and we're doing it in conjunction with the Santa Fe Neighborhood Council. And it's a twofold meeting. The first one is to get together in person and enjoy some coffee and pastries provided by the two neighborhood councils. And so it's social. It's an opportunity for us to talk face to face with our beat officers, and we don't know who's going to be there or how many. And then it's a good opportunity for us to review and to begin to set up our neighborhood watch groups. I do want to point out that Mary Lee and David are already making an active neighborhood watch group for the state streets above the elementary school. So they're organized already. They're getting their neighbors in. There will be more on social media, and there will be more direct emails to the community. What I am looking for is, if you are interested in crime prevention, feel free to just email or call me or stop me, because as we produce the flyers for these, I'm going to ask you, the neighbors, to go around to your neighborhoods and post and hand out these flyers. What has to stop happening is we can't have community members just calling the officers of the PRNC and saying, I see a guy outside my house. Or this guy broke into my car. We want to know what's happening in our community, but there's nothing I can do 3 days after it happens. So one of the things we'll make sure that happens is that everyone in the community on our mailing list and on social media will get a link to the fabulous neighborhood watch meeting that Michelle Milam held last month. So if you didn't attend that meeting, you can just watch it and understand that you can do as little or as much as you want. Jessie was great at it for years. It's time for her to, pass that on. It's not hard, but for all of us, the main goal is to observe and report. You don't have to put on a vest or a hard hat or carry a weapon, and to make sure that you know who to call. So you're not calling me or Lisa Johnson, and then we turn around and call. I'm really excited. Again, you'll hear about it, and I tend to wait about 2 weeks out so that it doesn't get lost by giving you the information too soon. So let's go ahead and go over to Eric with the membership.
Philip,
report.
you have a hand up from
I'm
Mary
sorry,
Lee?
Mary. Oh, there she is. Hi, superstar.
I'm Mary Lee here on East Richmond, and my husband David, with a wonderful team of 2 other neighbors, is starting a neighborhood watch in our area. The little, family around the school area. And so I really taking every opportunity to get that word out. We are about ready to launch into canvassing the neighborhood and letting people know and gathering their preferred contact information. So if untoward events happen, and they are happening, we can let everybody know, and we can really be eyes out there, observing, looking, reporting, sharing, and building community. That community is the safest response to crime, according to our hero, Michelle Malone. So anyhow, more on that later.
Thanks, Mary Lee, and I'm hoping that you'll be available because you will be ahead of the rest of the neighbors at that time. So we can get an extra Danish cinnamon rolls. Okay, back to Eric real quick with an update on membership.
Sure. Thanks, Phil. Good evening, everybody. We are up 3 members from last month. We're up to 178 members. So I just wanted to say thank you and welcome. If this is your first time at the meeting. Phil already covered the dues. You saw it in our email. Phil mentioned it tonight. I won't mention that again on my list. One final thing I wanted to add was I am reviewing our email distribution list. If you do perhaps receive an invite to join the PRNC, excuse me, Google group, please accept it. It's for this. It's to get on our communication distribution list. So if you see that, please accept that invite. So thank you, Phil. That's all I have.
Thanks. And in exciting news, because Edie is vice president now, and she kind of does this professionally in many ways, we're also going to look at new distribution systems that will make it a little bit easier. You won't see the changes, but you'll see the results. It will make it a little easier for us to reach you. And one of the things we want to do is there's a lot of information that comes across the officers' desks that we don't send out because we don't want to inundate you. And a lot of that's just fun community organizations. And so, we're going to kind of be starting to look at ways that we can communicate more with you, but make it pretty easy for you to just click on those emails or ignore them. We do not want to bombard you on a daily basis like, Best Buy or something. So we're looking at the ways that we communicate with you, and new ways to kind of just modernize our communications to the next level. Let's see what's next. Caesar, who's not here. So he sends his apologies. I told him only to text me if he was coming. He was in meetings in Chicago. He's in a different time zone. So one of the most important things to a lot of our community members is the Keller Beach project. So Caesar has arranged for Robert Amejo, who is the deputy public works director, to attend our next meeting. Now, that was scheduled for July, and we were intending to take July off. And I will talk to the board on Saturday to see if we flip-flop and we have that meeting specifically to accommodate him, or we put him off into August. He was not available for the June meeting. So but the important part of the communication is that no decisions are being made concerning Keller Beach, that Caesar is on it with the city. The city is responding to, maybe not responding to every email by every constituent, but they are responding as a whole to the fact that they are aware that they just can't move forward as blindly as they did. Graham, not surprised to see your hand up at the mention of Keller Beach.
Thanks, Phil. I'm glad you're not attaching some sort of nickname to me. In the circular that came around, they said that there would be a detailed update by the end of May, which is Friday, of course. Do we have any idea of where that stands? Are they on schedule? Are they running late? Are we going to hear anything?
I think the intention was that it was going to be done, postponed out to the end of June. This is anecdotal and my memory sometimes fails me. I think that the original intention was that Robert would be our guest speaker in June, and then he was unavailable to do that. So there is always going to be passing the buck with the city. There are many people who could speak on that. But I really I don't know. And so one of the things I'll do after this meeting is I will email Caesar specifically to remind him that there was going to be a detailed report and find out where we are on that. And Graham, I will copy you on that email if you'll pass it out to the rest of the, and I guess Kathleen, you're on that committee, right? Am I missing? No. Okay. So and then you can pass that on to the
Okay.
Keller Beach
Okay.
people. I'm walking away with a strong and honest feeling that this is going to move forward. Nothing happens on time anymore. Anna? Oh, go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, yes. I just thought we're concerned that it will move away and move away from us, and that we will then be handed down to some decision without any community input. And there are a lot of people here who would have a lot to add to this. We've got sanitary engineers, we've got lawyers, we've got finance people.
I understand. I don't think it's going badly, Graham. I just think it's going slowly. That's my feeling. But hopefully at this point, the PRNC doesn't have a guest speaker lined up for next month. So I say we'll probably ask Caesar back.
Okay.
But this was last minute for him, this trip to Chicago. Anna.
Just to reiterate what I think I heard you say, is that your sense is that even though things are not as quickly forthcoming, and there is no, for what we know, a report for May now, you feel as if, or what you heard is if they got the message that the community is not backing down, is not going away, and they understand they cannot just move forward and make decisions, that it needs to be a collective effort. And they've got that message. Okay, that's what
And I'll remind you that Caesar put on the consent calendar, and it was passed, that there would need to be research into the various options. So we're certainly hoping that, well, let me rephrase that. We are making sure that happens.
Correct.
That there's a lot of us that are watching this, both the PRNC and the homeowners in the area, and that so we can keep that resolution, or we can hold the city to that resolution to investigate all the options, which was originally supposed to be the way it was.
Philip, you have a question in the chat from Bruce Brubaker, who says, what is the Keller Beach project being discussed? Is it the sanitary sewer?
Bruce, sanitary sewer.
Okay.
Do you live up there? Oh yeah, that affects you, Bruce. You live up there.
Yeah, it definitely does. But you were just calling it Keller Beach, and I didn't know that that's
Thanks.
what it was.
I should have specified that. Yeah. You might want to, because it so directly affects your finances and your home, and you have a very, very well-respected voice within the city. I would love it if you might want to, hook up with Graham or a couple of your neighbors up on the hill and see if you have an opinion and you can add your voice, which is a very powerful one in our community.
Thanks,
to this.
Philip. Yeah, we've been following it. We've got the letters and have been tracking it. So looking forward to some kind of resolution.
Yeah. And also certainly Bruce Bayard as well, who has a pretty loud voice on that as well, or a well-respected voice. The city, Veolia, announced, I think, late Thursday or Friday that they were going to be repaving Brickyard Cove Way and Dornan Drive as part of the pumping station project. Caesar wrote some pretty strong letters to both Veolia and to Public Works, asking that that project be delayed because they basically gave us 4 days notice on a holiday weekend. I just want to tell the community where I stand on it. Veolia sends me notices on these things when they're going to do work on the sewage treatment plant, when they're working on the tanks, anything that involves odor. I do the best I can to put that on social media, but I've been kind of mentioning to the city and to Veolia, it is not the volunteer's job to communicate on behalf of a multi-billion-dollar utility company. They and the city need to get together and find a way to inform people on a larger basis. So we know that we have 400 to 500 people on our mailing list, our email list, many of whom they may be inactive, they may not be computer savvy. So I'm happy to do as much as I can, but it's really difficult for me to look at someone making $300,000 or $400,000 a year in the city, having them tell me that I need to volunteer to communicate. Happy to try to pass that information on, but we need a better system. Lisa was copied on that email, Lisa Johnson. One of the things we pointed out is that Veolia, speaking on behalf of the city, said, we told the city to put it on the city's website, and we, Veolia, are putting it on ours. I don't know about you guys. My family has lived here for 60 years, and we had no idea that Veolia had a website that we were supposed to log into and search on a daily basis to find out if anything might be happening in our community, because they posted it on page 87 of their community news for the state of California. And with the exception of Lisa Johnson and possibly Bruce Bayard and the Bruces. Oh, hi, Caesar. Most of us do not know how to get on the city website and surf for hours looking for something just in case something might be happening in our community. So, Caesar, thank you. Caesar just logged in. Thanks for joining us. You must be exhausted. Nice haircut. I think that it's really important that Caesar is advocating for better communications. Personally, on behalf of the PRNC, based on what you've told us, when there are major projects, we want postcards to go out, because not everyone's on Nextdoor. I'm not on Facebook, and not everybody can be reached by the neighborhood council. So I believe that the neighborhood council should amplify messages, but not be responsible for them. So Caesar, I was just going through all the things you told me, some points. And then I'll mention the last thing, and then people can ask Caesar directly some questions, and you can comment more on the last point. So we talked about Robert Mijo's presentation, upcoming presentation to PRNC. You asking for better warning system and more timely warning system about infrastructure things like the Veolia road project. And I think this is great. Thank you, Caesars. We are going to have one of those electric speed signs that says you're speeding this speed when you drive by. I don't know what they're called. The radar speed signs. Caesar was able to get the city to purchase another one and put it outside the tunnel. So at this point, it's scheduled to be by the plunge. Those are designed not to be too bright because we know it's a residential area. I think it's important you can communicate with the PRNC, or you can communicate with the city if let's see if the lighting annoys anybody. But all in all, if we can slow people down going through the tunnel, Caesar, thank you. It's another one of the baby steps in traffic calming. And now I'll just put Caesar on. I see Graham has a question. I know he has a question for you.
Yeah, well, no, Phil, just on the point of the tunnel, they also don't put their headlights on when they come through the tunnel. And if you're coming down Western, you can't see. If
We've
there's a
been
car,
right. We've been
Why
requesting additional signage for headlights
I
for
was about-
months.
yes, I would suggest you get a cop down there on the weekends.
Good luck.
And yeah, and $250 for driving through that tunnel. That's a great way for the city to raise some money.
Caesar can comment on the feasibility of that. I would do anything. And another thing that we're trying to do, Caesar, I know I want to get to you because it's late in Chicago. And I have reached out to Track on this, is we're trying to get the lighting fixed in that tunnel. We all want the lighting fixed, new lighting on the side of the tunnel so that it helps to eliminate that thing with when you're driving into the sunlight. There's millions of dollars going into this Bay Trail extension, and we're really trying to find out if there's a way we can get $40,000 to fix the lights. And I don't know. And Bruce is here. Both of the Bruces are here. So maybe after Caesar speaks, you can comment on whether or not there's a way, since that's such an integral part of the New Day Trail, whether or not there's a way we can make that happen. Now I'll go to Caesar.
Yeah, I see Lisa's hand too. Lisa might have that answer you're looking for there.
If you look at the Public Works 5-year capital improvement plan, the tunnel lighting is only for design only for the next 5 years, nothing else. It's been completely deprioritized.
And that financing was supposed, if I recall correctly, was supposed to have been finalized in Q1 of 2022.
Yeah, but that was with the previous Public Works director when
Right,
there
and
was
that, yeah, nobody remembers now.
how any projects got prioritized. It was who was the favorite person of the day.
Yeah, and thank you, Lisa, for that. Yeah, it's on the plan, which is it's been a little frustrating. Right, I think I can admit with all of you here, with the city moves very slow. And then we had a lot of turnover. So it was them asking, please give us an opportunity to catch up. Please don't point to what the previous people did. Let us clean up. Give us a chance, give us a chance, give us a chance. And I talked to the city manager and I said, okay, 1 year's up. How much longer do they need? We need to start having solutions. And that's the message that she's been giving out to her staff. They're still moving a little slow, and the government moves slow. I'm not pointing fingers at staff. I think that is just from what I've been learning from the years of in public service. Government moves very slow. So all that to say there, I'll start off with the tunnel. I'll make sure that for the next, or as soon as we're able to prioritize it and being able to do something good with the tunnel, putting the correct lighting on there, fixing the end. As you're getting to Western, there's that Veolia project that's been there for a long time. The plates, the metal plates that are at the end, that is, there's lots of them all over the city. And Veolia needs to get off their butt and start repairing them. So we need, all in all, we need the whole tunnel to be fixed, from lighting all the way to the potholes, all the way to the plates that are at the end. That is something that I will continue working with. I ask for a little bit of patience just because everything works a little slow and I'm trying to push as much as I can. In this last Tuesday's meeting, I asked, I said, look, as we're prioritizing projects, I know that we have to look at the city as a whole, but we need to start giving each district some love. Because we can't just prioritize part of the city that might be in dire need and then not give all the districts at least something. So we need to start moving projects up all around. And I know that the Point Richmond group has had a long list of issues and concerns, and we have given them to Public Works many times. But we're trying to work in moving those up and getting a lot of those at least on the list. I'll hopefully be able to provide a little bit better update in the future, but I'll make sure that the tunnel is looked at again and see where we can get some funding from it. See if we can use some of the funding from the Brickyard Road, Cove Road, that they gave that funding to Public Works. See if we can use some of that to finish off that project there. So I'll get back to you guys on that there. Grant, you have a great idea in regards to police. The only thing is if we had more, then we'd be able to put them everywhere. I get emails, can we put a police in this corner? Can we put one on that corner? Someone's making U-turns here. Everyone wants one in each corner. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity. So we have to figure out what else can we do strategically to the live environment to maybe slow down traffic. Maybe we start with some more signs. Maybe that this the speed trailer is what's going to be getting installed here soon. Hopefully that will slow people down. Right. So if we work in the live environment first to see if there's anything that we can do there, that's hopefully a little bit faster and cheaper. So hopefully with the speed trailer, better lighting, some signage. I'll make sure that I take that as a takeaway. See if we can install some more signage. I'm not sure if you guys currently have any signage there that says to slow down or to turn on the lights.
It's if it's even still there. When last I looked, it was so faded you couldn't read it.
Okay, then I'll drive
And
by.
there's actually a lot of signage on that sidewalk alongside the plunge that is not even compliant to signage regulations. So it might be possible, since signage is cheap, for Public Works to take a walk and make sure that everything is signed properly and legibly. And there's trees there, and so there's signage issues there for sure.
Yeah, those are hopefully small stuff that we can hopefully check off quickly. So I'll take the signs as a takeaway, and again, hopefully with the speed trailer that will slow people down a little bit, and then being able to figure out where we can strategically place our officers if we do in fact need them somewhere. One of the big complaints is during rush hour, to get an officer right in front of the Chevron's facility on Richmond Parkway, right as people are getting into 580, because people are making U-turns, people are making left turns, right turns, they're going all over directions, slowing down the traffic. So people have asked to see if we can put someone there to a little bit of street calming and just overall looking at the traffic. And hopefully that will help speed up people getting onto the on-ramp there. And then that on-ramp, that's a whole other issue. That's a huge issue, and we're working on it as well with Caltrans, with other partner agencies. I believe it was last month that we had WICTEC, or was it 2 months ago? The WICTEC some of their ideas for it. So I'm not going to go much into that there because I think they already provided some of the ideas there. One of the something that I'm working on with some of the agencies that I think is going to help resolve a lot of the issues that we have now, and issues that we're not even aware of that's happening on the bridge. We need a new bridge. And right now it's the right time to ask for funding for a new bridge. Under President Biden and the infrastructure bill that's out there, there's billions of dollars available, and specifically for bridges. So I'm working with a couple of different agencies to see what we can do to come together with a plan to start asking for some of that funding, and then start looking for a plan for that bridge. The more people I talk to, the scarier that bridge gets. And there's a lot of issues with that bridge, and people that have been working in the city or in government for much longer than I have, they've already retired, and they come and they tell me some scary stuff. They're like, why didn't you guys do anything before? I was like, well, nobody wanted to take this big project. But now it's the right time. So hopefully in partnership, we'll be able to do it. Adding permanent bike lanes, for example, so we don't have to fight over 3rd lane, 4 lanes. We can figure out a walkway, bike lanes, the lanes that we need, a structurally sound bridge that is going to be safe for years to come. that bridge was not built for heavy commutes. And now we have heavy commutes. So we need to upgrade that bridge to be what we need it today and not what it was in yesteryears. So that's just a little bit there.
I see that Edie has a question. Do you want to take that, Caesar?
Actually, Anna was had a question before I did. So go
Yeah,
ahead with her.
Anna, did you have a question?
Mine can wait. I'm just curious if somebody wants to privately pay for a speed bump, because I know people can petition the city to put in a speed bump. I think they're $4,000, $5,000, and they go in a rotation of seeing if it's needed. But if a private citizen wanted to pay to have one put in, what the process is, but we can talk offline.
Yeah, and Anna, that is just so people know, I've had this conversation literally 1,000 times. There are issues with speed bumps in emergency evacuation routes.
Okay.
So, but Caesar is already exploring traffic, I don't want to speak for you, smaller traffic calming issues concerning around the plunge area. And it's ongoing. I don't know if Caesar, if you even want to comment on that, but
Yeah.
I know that we talk about it every month.
Traffic issues, traffic concerns, traffic safety, slowing traffic down, these are not just issues within Point Richmond. It's actually during the District 2 meeting that some of you attended, that was the #1 topic. And it's also the #1 topic across the city. So we're not the only part of the city or part of the district. Others are having similar concerns. So we have to start looking at what we can do holistically and what we can do faster. And I myself am trying to have a little bit of patience because I see a good plan for Public Works. I want them to go much faster. I have told them that, but I see something in their plan where they're trying to come up with I'm going to call it a mold for different issues, so they can just copy paste that solution across the city. So if we need and I use the speed bump, for example, right? If we want to look at speed bumps, they can easily go to a part of the street and say, okay, if A then equals B, then we can put a speed bump. If this doesn't equal this, then no speed bump, we have to do something else. And then if it is, we'll have a company ready to come in and install it. So that way it can move much quicker. Right now, they don't have a plan. They're very reactive to everything that happens. A couple of meetings ago, Cancel mentioned that they had only done 4 speed bumps in a year. And that is very unacceptable. So they're trying to figure out a plan where they can do a lot more with less time, because our community is really in need of traffic safety. These are not answers. I apologize, I don't have concrete to say by this day at this time we're going to have all these things fixed. That's why I shared with you my frustration at the beginning. And I have meetings with the city manager, I have meetings with the public works director. I'm trying to push as much as possible. I will be taking a little bit different approach once we come back from city or as we go into the city council break, which is working with communities. As someone was mentioning, maybe paying them ourselves or doing something much quicker, even if it's somewhat temporary, to allow everyone to public works to catch up. And maybe working with partners.
And Caesar has a lot of innovative ideas, but I've realized that it is wise not to discuss ideas until we find out whether or not they're feasible. Because then the community catches on fire because we're going to put a speed bump there and then we find out we can't because of the fire trucks, for example. So, but I do know, Caesar, and I'm grateful for how often we discuss alternative plans for our downtown area for traffic calming. Now on to Edie.
Unfortunately, I don't know if now is a good time to move off of traffic calming, but I did want to see if we could get an update on the situation with the irrigation at the Judge Carroll Park, because we are
They're
about
working on it now, Edie.
They are working on it, but I haven't seen much movement. Do we have an ETA on that? Because that we're about to lose all of that grass, and it's not going to be pretty or cheap to fix it.
Maybe I don't have an answer for that. It's the first time I hear about it, so I will take that as a follow-up.
Yeah. Okay. So just to give you an update on it, what happened is that there was a car accident on the corner west of East Richmond and Gerard, and it wiped out the whole corner where they had all of the pipes and everything for the irrigation to Judge Carroll Park. So it has not been watered since the last time it rained, and it's threatening to all the grass there is threatening to die, and they are working on it, but it is going exceedingly slowly. And I just was wondering if we had an update, because it's going to cost a lot more money to fix the lawn if the lawn dies completely.
Thank you for that. I will take that as a takeaway. And then
And do
I'll
know that
fill
the Parks Department chair is Division of Public Works, Parks and Landscaping is well aware of the situation, but I saw no reason to ask for an update because he knows. And apparently this is a pumping station of some kind that is so far underground that the city really doesn't have, I guess they're having to hire a contractor to deal with it. Catherine, you're muted.
Yes, okay, now I'm unmuted. So on traffic calming, a lot of municipalities elsewhere have automatic speed sensing and ticketing. And they put them very much around elementary schools or places where the speed drops suddenly to say 25. And I don't know why Richmond, I'm sure there's some expense to it, but I know when I've gotten these tickets traveling other places, they're expensive tickets. They're like $180 for going slightly over the speed limit around an elementary school. And I don't know if Richmond's looked into this, but we really don't have the kind of police where we can place them strategically all over the city, but there are revenue producing solutions that can accurately detect and mail a ticket to someone. And I think the city should seriously consider them.
Catherine, that's a really great idea. Unfortunately, there's other laws that are preventing us from putting them in. There is a pilot, I believe it's about 4 or 5 cities in the state that have been given the green light to put those type of cameras up. So you might just be the lucky person driving in one of these cities that's doing this pilot. But the rules, how I understand it and how they disallowed them and now they're trying to allow them again, is that they need a human to look, because people sued and said, I wasn't speeding, right? It was another red car with my license plate, or how do you know it was me? It could have been my spouse or my friend who's borrowed my car. Like, lawyers get involved and laws start changing. But now they're going back again, and they've allowed a handful of cities to do it, San Francisco being one of them. As soon as we're able to get them in Richmond, I will be asking to put them in Richmond, because that is a really great idea. And if anything, it deters people when they know someone's watching and they have to slow down. So great idea. I am definitely having that on top of the list as soon as we're able to jump on board. Same thing for red light cameras. I know Lisa has been working on it for a long time, and I'm trying to take that baton from her as well and see what we can do. But similar to that, there's laws that say you can put red light cameras, but a physical human must look at the incident. So if you run the red light, a human must look at it. The system can't just print out a ticket and mail it to you.
I tell you, in this town, I see someone run a red light every single day. So I'm amazed that we don't have them. Again, it's revenue producing.
Yeah.
We have other laws that say don't run red lights.
Yeah. No, there's definitely laws that says don't run red lights. But the law that prohibits the city from putting them up without having the human power behind the camera, that's where we're trying to figure out. I've spoken with the chief of police, to see if we can figure out if we can put someone to be able to, if we put cameras strategically around, again, we need a human to physically look at those cameras before issuing the ticket. And that right now is the issue. But that is something that I brought up, and I will continue bringing that up, both speed cameras and the red light traffic cameras. I believe both of them are definitely deterrents. Berkeley to have one as you exit on University Avenue, and they took it away. And I tell you, I don't even run that light. I slow down because it scared me from in the many years that I used to work in Berkeley. And I used to get tickets there. And even though it's no longer there, I've learned. So hopefully it becomes a deterrent to the community as well if once we're able to put them up.
Thanks. I think we should take one last question from James because it's quite late where Caesar is, and we have 2 votes to take. So certainly, Caesar, will try to arrange to have you come back and do a part 2, in the next month or so. James, let's make this the last question. Caesar needs to go to bed. I am aware that he was in meetings all day in a foreign, scary city.
I just wanted to add that about 15, 20 years ago, litigation was involved with these red light cameras, and Lockheed Martin was getting a big chunk of it, so I don't know where the law stands now, but they actually got caught in San Diego for reducing the yellow signal interval by 1 second. So there was some crooked stuff going on then. That's all I have to add.
Thanks so much. Caesar,
Okay.
thanks for joining us at almost midnight your time, I guess.
Oh, no, it's 8:40. I just finished
Oh.
another council meeting. That's why I'm sorry that I was late for this one. I was trying to do another one as well.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I thought you were in meetings in Chicago.
Oh, I was. And then I finished and I jumped on another never council meeting, and then I'm on this one.
Well, if you will eat one of those giant thick pizzas for us, I personally will be grateful.
That is
We
what
do
I had
have
for
some.
dinner.
We have some votes that we need to take today, so I'm going to move this meeting on, and then thank you for coming so much, Caesar. I really appreciate it. For those of you who participate in community briefs, does anybody mind if we jump through the first pass and just go to the votes and then go back and do all the community votes? Is there anyone who has to leave who would like to do their community vote brief right now from the first batch? Okay, great. I think we're just going to call this and say, I'm going to switch over to Charmaine because we do have 2 votes on LUDRC issues.
Okay, so the Land Use Design Review Committee met today, and we discussed 2 different projects. The first project was 88 Buena Vista. Do you say Buena Vista? Buena Vista, right?
Buena Vista.
Okay. So this is a single family home. It has 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. It's 2-story. It's right up against the side of the hill, and the backyard will be natural, and the front will have a deck on the 2nd floor, and then it's terraced. So there's nice terracing that could include planting and that kind of thing. The LUDRC discussed the design and voted to approve the design with no conditions. Do you want to continue with that one issue before?
Why don't we do them one at a time, since the other one, is a little more complicated? And we are going to try to enter the 21st century. Edie, we are going to try to vote on your screens. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the rising of hands. So, Edie, can you put up that vote? Okay, so this is a vote for
this is a vote that is for paid PRNC members only. If you are not a paid PRNC member, meaning that you've paid your dues and you're current, please do not vote. And we will be checking names later to make sure, so we will know for certain if there is any question.
So this is something new, and Edie's new. I'm just going to correct and change the word paid to active. Because for any of you who might be active members whose fees were waived, you can vote as well. But that's something you would have requested. It's been suggested that we approve the Land Use and Design Committee's recommendation for the revised new home construction plan at 88 Buena Vista. I was in that meeting. There were a bunch of people in that meeting. Nobody had any objection to any aspect of it. So you just click on it, Edie?
Yes, you just click.
Okay, so
I think you submit, no? Click and submit.
Yep. We are about now at 8 of them. 9 votes are in. There we go. There you are.
Just on the first one. So you don't want to vote on both of them yet.
Yeah, don't want to vote on Terminal 1 yet because we have not heard Terminal 1 yet.
So we click on our vote and then hit submit, and then you'll bring this up again?
Right. I will end the poll and then I will relaunch it after we hear the Terminal 1. So I was assuming that we were going to hear both of those and then make a decision. So I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Okay, so what we're going to do is please vote and submit. And then if there is anybody here who feels uncomfortable or they're not tech savvy, please just speak up or put your vote in. Lisa?
If there are 2 members on the same Zoom, like Kathleen and Joe, if you want to each launch separate votes, you can put one in the text or, you know, because there isn't a mechanism the way the poll works to do 2 people on the same Zoom camera.
We're trying it. We'll see how it works. So for example, in Kathleen and Joe's case, Kathleen, if you just said Kathleen and Joe times 2, if you vote the same way, we'll pick that up.
Yeah, and you could put it via private message to Edie if you don't want people to see your vote.
Right.
Then only Edie would tell.
Well, no,
But
no one's
I do
going to,
wanna
no one,
remind you that
no one
for-
will see your vote. When we show the results, nobody sees votes. I will
Right.
see votes when we do our final report so that we can look to make sure that who
Right.
is actually the
But
votes
for
that are
60
counted
years,
are the
the
members.
PRNC, this is a neighborhood council. So for 60 years, the PRNC has encouraged people. We've always done these votes live with a show of hands. So this is your neighbors, you know, and you know, we don't be shy to express your opinion in a PRNC meeting. So last calls on that vote. Anybody who has any trouble, just raise your hand physically or otherwise. And, you know, if need be, we'll just go in and add your vote. It looks like everybody's comfortable. We'll see next time. If this was a success, we think it's a better way to vote. And then please go on, Charmaine, with the Terminal 2, Terminal 1. And I just want to make the statement I made at the meeting. When I sent out the email concerning this issue, I wrote the wrong thing. I wrote that this was the final proposal. I meant to say the word latest proposal because we are far from the end of this. But we want to move forward because there are really, really scary dynamics if we can't, as a community, move forward on this project. So Charmaine, take it from here.
Okay, we had a great discussion and presentation from Jonathan Livingston, who's under contract with Laconia for the redesign, the current redesign of Terminal 1. For those people who don't know where Terminal 1 is, it's in the Brickyard Cove area, and it's partly the land where the old cement warehouse is. It was called Terminal 1, I believe, in World War II when they were doing the shipbuilding. And it's just been an empty bit of land sitting there. We've had several developers come and go and make presentations. None of it has worked out up until now. And this developer named Laconia, they have listened to many, many presentations and comments from neighbors, from different people in the community, and have completely done a redesign, which we think is really good. So I'm going to read some of the positive parts of this redesign. And when you vote, this is by no means the last vote. This is the beginning of a new project vote, okay? We like it, but here's some of the positive things about it. They have completely redone the design, and the actual design of the development and the houses are much more in keeping with the rest of Brickyard Cove. We have several developments here, and this development seems to me to fit in nicely with the other developments, which are Brickyard Landing. We have houses on the Spit. We have Sea Cliff. We have Waterline. Those are the main developments over here. Now, I have to read without my glasses, so there's also a much smaller impact on ingress and egress concerns due to the smaller number of housing units. They were proposing 150 units, and now they're at 85 single family homes. And that completely, it helps all of us to digest the amount of traffic coming and going, which we were all kind of like afraid of before. They're also allowing ample parking for residents and guests. Parking was a big issue on the previous several designs.
Charmaine, I'd like to interject. It was like, basically it was almost 4 spaces per house. So that would probably be probably some of the best parking situation in the city.
Well, it's very similar to what they've done with Waterline, is they have allowed 2 cars to fit on the driveway and 2 cars in the garage. So that's just fantastic. There's in the development itself, they have a tot lot, a potential daycare facility, and they also have a meeting room. They're planning a vegetable garden that would be similar to the Brickyard Landing vegetable garden. If you haven't seen that, you could drive by Brickyard Cove Road and see what that looks like. They're also planning for a cafe, and this cafe is a 2-story building. The top story would be for a meeting room, and then the cafe itself has views of the bay, and it gives a very open feeling. You can see Angel Island from the cafe, and it can be a meeting point for people who are using the Bay Trail, people who are using Ferry Point Park, people who live around in the area and just walk by for many different reasons, but it's a nice idea. They're integrating the Brickyard Cove Road and Dornan Drive with a new realignment plan. This at the moment is under construction and has been for many, many months with the pumping station. And they haven't quite settled down on the new design, but they're proposing something that would work really nicely. The interior roads of the development and the parking is similar to Waterline, and I think it's going to be a big improvement, that part. The waterfront landscaping, it is against the bay, and the waterfront landscaping will be rocks and grass and dunes, again similar to where Waterline touches the bay. It will be more or less kind of, it won't be bay access. If you want bay access, you go next door to Ferry Point and there's a beach. The homes that are in this development that face Brickyard Cove Road will actually have looking like a front of the house. So it would look very neighborly. But the people won't access it off of Brickyard Cove Road. They will access it within the development at what you might call the back of the house, so that they won't have traffic coming and going off of Brickyard Cove Road. The same with the houses that face the bay. It will look like a front of a house is facing the bay, but their access will be from the interior of the development. The density, as I said before, is a lot less, 85 single-family homes, and the access is much improved. And they're no longer blocking views from most of Brickyard Landing. In the past, that has been a major issue. They wanted 4- and 5-story buildings where it would block a lot of views from Brickyard Landing. This decision also meets the design criteria from TRAC for the Bay Trail and includes the 18-foot width that they need for the Bay Trail. Now, what I'm telling you is just a brief summary of what we heard and the plans that we saw. Now, it's all in a preliminary stage, but the LUDRC feels that this is a superior design and meets the desires of the community after having many discussions and presentations with the community and many neighbors. So the LUDRC approves this preliminary design for Terminal 1. Now, I want to let you know what will happen going forward. They're having a meeting this week with the city council in a closed door session. And hopefully after that, if they get approval, then they're going forward to fine tune the designs. They plan to come to PRNC to present probably around the first of the year of 2025. Excuse me. So we still have many, opportunities to discuss with them their plans. Excuse me. I'm having a problem talking, so I'm going to ask Phil to talk about the potential of what the city council might be offering. I don't really know anything about it, except it was mentioned that the city council might have other ideas for that piece of property. And I think as neighbors, we need to know that. But in terms of the vote, we support this project. The LUDRC supports this project.
Thank you. I think Jonathan came up with an incredibly elegant solution that filled a lot, that checked a lot of boxes based on the presentation. One of the concerns that we have, and this is all extremely vague, is that there is discussion that the city council would like to pull the residential project and turn this area over to the port. They have instructed the port, and Lisa, I'm really paraphrasing because we don't have time to have this, whole meeting, that they have instructed the port to look into the possibility of turning that into industrial use. So I just, for many of the people who live in our community, the idea that this could become basically factories as an extension of a sincere and viable desire to produce wind turbine components that would then be distributed around the state. That is one of the possibilities, but it's all really, really vague now. I think it would be pretty frightening if I lived in Brickyard Cove to wake up one day and find a factory being built, particularly because we have no our emergency evacuation options are so limited. I'm going to try to field the questions. It's not really my thing, Charmaine, from Gary and Graham, and then you can chime in if I don't do a good job with it, because I'm not on the LUDRC, but I was just in the meeting. Yes, Gary?
Yeah. A question, Charmaine. One of the issues was the amount of fill that was going to have to go in there to accommodate some of the previous plans. Is that changed at all in this kind of plan?
Yeah, this plan is a great reduction in the amount of fill. And the previous plans included having basement kind of parking, and this doesn't have that. And in fact, some of the houses are up a level, so they're more far removed from the ground level, and they don't need the amount of fill that they needed before.
Right. In a nutshell, instead of raising the ground, they're keeping the ground flat and raising the houses.
Okay, thank you.
Graham?
Thanks, Phil, and thanks, Charmaine. Two questions. This has been going on for a while, Terminal 1, and I think Laconia has been in here before with a couple of proposals. So, they should be familiar with this. But I remember on one of the proposals that was put forward by somebody, we finally winkled out from them that they were expecting the city to chip in $1 million or so to reinforce the waterfront, which was pretty outrageous proposal since they're going to make a ton of money out of this. And I would just want to make sure that the city isn't giving any developer any money to build for them, a very profitable project.
Let's let Lisa field that.
Good. Okay, Lisa.
Yeah, so one of the main reasons, and I was extremely vocal about this, was, and this goes along with Point Melody, nobody in Brickyard Cove, nobody in the city believed any taxpayers should foot any maintenance of any component of that development, including the wharf or a public park. There should be no district. Taxes are outrageous out there. People can't even afford their property taxes anymore out there. So they don't want to have added a district tax. They don't want it. They didn't want that passed on to the HOA people, because you're gonna have a hard time finding people who can even afford to live there, and let alone the Richmond taxpayers. So that has all been taken out of the equation. And that was something that the community was very adamant about, was not having that passed on to taxpayers.
Thanks, Lisa.
So yeah,
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that the prior design had a whole wharf, a big park, and all of that. This doesn't have that. There's no
Okay.
wharf, there is a small park.
I see. So there's no capital expenditure to going into the development.
Correct.
Correct. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Sally?
Thank you, Graham, for bringing up the shoreline issue. I'm very hesitant to vote in favor of this because sea level rise is going to affect that area. And so I went out on the NOAA website today and looked at various scenarios and looked at them in light of the predictions from the Ocean Protection Council. And in the worst case scenario, that area would be half flooded underwater in 2100, which is only 75 years from now. And so my concern is really for, are they going to be able to sell enough units with that short a timeline? And secondly, are we really ready to see people watch their major investment plummet in value as the sea level comes up? So I'm just very concerned about that.
Thank you, Sally. Jan?
You want me to address her concern?
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I wish you had been at the meeting, Sal. I'm sorry. I forgot that people weren't at the meeting. Go ahead. But we do have to move along because.
Yeah. And I'll just say it quickly. So everybody is concerned about that. It's similar things with water line that all had to be addressed at what that level has to be. I think it's 14 feet. So that is all part of their plan. They also have to make sure that they have, I'm blanking on the name of the wall, the slurry wall. So because that is contaminated land that has to be cleaned, they also have to make sure that any storm water and all of that is appropriately captured so it doesn't go into the bay. So they're responsible for building a slurry wall in front of the Bay Trail. And that all has to be done. No matter what use you're going to put on that site, whether the city wants to convert that to industry or if they keep it as residential, all of that has to be addressed. Any use on that site, whether it's commercial, industry port use, or whether it's residential. In the past, when the project was approved, the city council approved that project and said that any seawall to address sea level rise was going to be the responsibility of the HOA. It was a joke. That is now gone. So they will be trying to address that, and they have hired experts to help them with addressing any sea level rise and those types of things so that the HOA is not responsible for that down the road.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, it was pretty clear that they were accommodating for, I'm sorry, Sally, that they were accommodating for sea level rise. And I will point out, for whatever it's worth, I have never seen anything sell faster than Waterline. I blinked and those houses were sold. But
Jesse was not.
it's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, I
Jesse?
lowered the hand of the person that you had called. I can't remember who that was. So if you were the person that was called, I think it was Jan. And I could be wrong. That Phil called and then Lisa stepped in. You were called next, so please go ahead.
So Jan is next.
I believe it was Jan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's just a question. Did I hear you right though, that you said that the waterfront isn't going to be, will not be public?
We didn't actually talk about whether it was public or not. There is a road that goes in front of the water area, and the house development is like within an area that is away from the waterfront.
It's very
but
similar to the water line. Very similar to water line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Jesse.
Oh, I think Lisa assuaged, is that how you pronounce that? My concern. I haven't heard any discussion about toxin remediation at that site for a few years. So I just wondered if that ball got dropped, but it sounds like it's going to be dealt with.
It was addressed, and it's too complicated for this meeting.
Sure.
But thank you. It's an important topic.
Yeah, there was a guy that was talking about it constantly who lived out at Yard Young. I just haven't heard any discussion of it as a community for a while. So thank you.
They're under order to address that, Jesse, with the Regional Water Quality Control Board.
Great.
Catherine?
Yeah, I guess I'm questioning the comment about the land could be turned into industrial use. In 2014, Richmond adopted a general plan, and that plan designated the site medium density residential. Prior to that, it had been commercial, but it got changed. And that plan is supposed to run through 2030. And I just want to point out, I know Richmond tries to do this, but they cannot in the city council unilaterally change the zoning on a specific piece of property. They would be successfully sued if they tried that. Now, and it used to be too, that when you sold public land, and this is a public piece of land, everything had to be consistent with the general plan. If you sell that land, whatever is proposed has to be consistent with the general plan. I don't know if that's still a state law, but that was a state law at the time that Laconia started this project. So I think that they're scaring us into supporting something that perhaps is not. And I know Lisa might have more updates on that. I do know, however, that the Surplus Land Act that passed in the state a couple of years ago does say that if you have surplus land in the city and you do nothing with it, then you do have to put it out to developers to bid on. But I suspect it still would need to be residential in some fashion because that's what the general plan says.
Catherine, what you just said was very insightful, but it is a fact that the city council has instructed the port director to look at industrial use. And that's why we were extremely vague.
It's
because I don't know.
And isn't it though? Isn't it outside of the official port?
Here's what would have to happen. If the city would have to recapture it They would have to change the general plan. They would have to make a zoning change. They would have to do a full EIR, and they would have to mitigate all traffic consequences. And that is very challenging with the ingress and egress to put all trucks or industrial uses out there. So there's many impediments that they have to go to do this. And it also would require them to reapply to BCDC and also get an approval for a Seaport Plan amendment. It is not trivial. And all the time while that's going on, the city would be holding the cost to maintain that site.
So what I need to do, because this LUDRC meeting was announced, is we need to move on to a vote. People can abstain, they can vote for or against, but unfortunately, we need to move on. This meeting is slated to run pretty much as late as any that I've ever conducted. And I'm grateful to my community, the community folks who are waiting to speak up. So let's go ahead.
And I do want to mention that that this is a preliminary plan. It will likely come in front of the LUDRC in the future. And if you have questions that go into specifics like this, I would implore you to go to the LUDRC meetings, because that's where those questions will be answered directly by the developer.
Thanks, Edie. All right, so let's go ahead and place this vote based on, so I'm going to ask Charmaine, are you able to speak?
Yes.
Okay, and I do want you to point out the Bay Trail aspect, because the track was there and they had a request,
Right.
and it agrees with everybody. Everybody agrees with the request.
And I did read it already. It's
Oh,
in
okay,
my
thank you.
bullet points. Yeah, that this design meets the design criteria for track for the Bay Trail and includes the width needed in the design of 18 feet.
Thank
for
you,
the
Charmaine.
official Bay Trail.
So remember, this is not, you're not voting for or against this project. We're voting for moving forward with presenting this project in layman's terms, because I know that can be confusing. So if you'll go ahead and please submit your vote. So if we approve, you are approving the LUDRC's recommendation. If you disapprove, you do not approve of their recommendation, or you can abstain. Edie, do you have votes coming in?
I do.
Okay, so things are working.
Mm-hmm. So we have 22 votes, and I do want to remind everyone that, and this is indicating that we are at 82% participation, but that is probably because the only votes that will be considered in this are going to be reviewed after the meeting to ensure that they are active members. So I'm going to give another couple of seconds. If you are an active PRNC member and you've not voted, please do so in the next 10 seconds.
Does anybody have any technical difficulty and would like to just put it in the chat? Or okay, it looks like this is a pretty easy system. Yep. Edie, thanks for working this out. We'll let you know.
Would you like, I will share I can share the results of this now so that you can see. Now, this is the raw results, not excluding any non-members that may have voted. Would you like to see that?
What do you think, folks? You want to take a look at our new system?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's the votes.
Okie dokie.
You have the other one, Edie, from the first one? From the
I do. I don't know that I can share it because I have already gone through it. I can see if I can.
Do you remember how it was, just sort of anecdotally?
Yeah, let's see. View the results and share the results. Okay, so please keep in mind that the second question on this, the question 2, was not an active question. The only active question that was asked at this point in the meeting was the 88 Buena Vista Avenue.
Okay.
All right.
So unless we find that non-active members voted, it looks like we can leave this meeting with a feeling for how this voting went. And then we'll be able to, if anybody has any questions about the voting, let me know. And because this is new, but it's clearly quite easier than trying to raise hands and count screens. So thanks, Edie. Okay, let's move on from that. And we're going to run through the community briefs as quickly as possible. I'm grateful for you community brief people who hung on. I didn't expect this meeting I thought this meeting was going to run half an hour short. So let's start with CERT. Anything going on, Charmaine? And Charmaine might have jumped off because, she's
She
been
jumped
sick.
off
Oh,
and
hi.
then she just jumped back again.
Hey, Charmaine, do you want to comment on CERT or do you want to just take a break from your voice? You're on mute. Charmaine, you're muted. Would you like
I
to
know,
talk
I
about
know, I
CERT?
know. What happened is I was on my iPad and it actually ran out of juice. And I had a quick jump on my laptop. So I'm on my
Okay.
laptop and I've got juice. So here we go. CERT Richmond. We're very excited to say that we just finished another class and we graduated our next group of CERT trainees. It's starting to come together with a really good plan now with Richard Diaz, who you all met, I think it was last month or the month before, who's our new operations manager for emergency preparedness for the city of Richmond. We're currently planning classes for next fall. And if you're interested, just let me know and I can get the people in touch with you and get you on a waiting list. What we do is we meet at the Fire Department Training Center and we are trained by fire department firefighters, captains, and sometimes chiefs, and it's really great training. So you would learn a little bit about first aid and radio communications, how to stay safe in an emergency. It's a really good program. It's about 9 weeks of 1 night a week classes. And then we have a Saturday drill for the final drill. So that's what I have to report from CERT Richmond. Let me know if you're interested and we can talk more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody here from the Business Association? I will share some news. I've invited him to speak. The previous Tewksbury location of the Grapes Nest on Tewksbury has been either purchased or rented by the people who own the Massa restaurant on the corner, and they are turning it into a hamburger restaurant. The reason they're not here today is they're busy because they are simultaneously buying the old hamburger restaurant, the Great American, and that is to become a frozen yogurt, smoothie, and health drink location. And I think ice cream or frozen yogurt is going to be very well welcomed on that corner. So there was a lot of gossip, so I just went over and met the owner. So that's what's happening there. Okay. Bonnie Joe, did
Yeah,
I bore you to death? You're still here and I called
I'm
you.
here, man, not by much, let me tell you.
Sorry.
I don't have any announcements, but what I would like to do is to thank Sue Rosanoff for the great job she does with the neighborhood council panel on our kiosk, which is very visible. And for the fact that she has assumed responsibility, well, not responsibility, but she has improved the business association panel, which they had done nothing with, and just out of the kindness of her heart, she made it. Those are 2 very visible panels, and she's done a great job in making them attractive, appealing, visually appealing. And I wanted to thank her for doing that. Sue Resinoff.
And Bonnie Joe, thanks for helping. I saw Bonnie Joe helping her to put up new fabric in those windows today. So you were part of that improvement of our neighborhood as well. Margie is not here. If there's anyone from Arts to Point Richmond. Okay, the new banners have gone up and they look fabulous. There's more and brighter than ever. Magic Lantern, Kate. I remembered you this week. Are you still here or did you give up? I remembered to call her and she dropped out. Sorry, folks. I see anybody from Pram? No. Anything from homeowners? Lisa usually speaks? No. Oh, good. We're catching up a little bit, kind of. Oh, we're not that bad. Community briefs part 2. Maskers. Any news? No. Cordell is not here. On the 10th, I will be attending the meeting of the Neighborhood Coordinating Council. There is tons of money that is coming in on a grant. And that grant will be going, some money will be going to 20 neighborhood councils, including ours, for projects that bring neighbors together. So this can include helping to finance our existing Spring Fling and National Night Out events, and also working with other neighborhood organizations to have get-togethers or all types of activities. I will give you more details as I find them, and we will ask the community for opinions on types of things that you would like to see done with that money for the community to get together for various things. There's been a lot of interest in doing activities for seniors and social and what do you call them? Social activities and artistic activities within the community. So just a little heads up, that's something to do with the Richmond Neighborhood Coordinating Council. Thank you for doing another beautiful garden cleanup. Gary, do you have news for us otherwise? You're muted, Gary. Still muted, Gary. Still muted, Gary. Does anybody read
There we
lips?
go.
Oh,
I
here
got
we
it.
go.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's great to see the fried eggplants are in full bloom and the roses looking great. So yeah, the garden's blooming right now. So it's really been cleaned up. Just so you know that the upper tennis court, we do have a grant, which we'll find out in June if that gets resurfaced. It'll be resurfaced as a combination of pickleball and tennis court. The youth program in Richmond, we finally got it going full steam. So every day of the week now, from 2:30 to 5, we actually have kids out on the courts with instructors. Then we have the regular adult tennis that continues. Also on HBF, the Benevolent Foundation, Maren and I are actually meeting with the Adam Ramirez from the Richmond Fire Youth Academy tomorrow at lunch. And so we're supporting them, and actually there's like 20 or 25 kids that actually go through their program. And so they were needing some funds to make that work. And so we're having a lunch tomorrow and helping that move along. These kids are great to see. And we'll talk more about that at a future meeting. That's it.
Thanks, Gary. You two never cease to amaze us. Graham, what's going on the Victory?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. We have a busy June. 80 years to the day of the greatest amphibious landing ever. We are celebrating the invasion of Normandy, which is on June the 6th, by showing that actually a very good movie, The Longest Day. And we think that's appropriate. And movie will start at 7 o'clock on the ship. Ship opens at 6:30, and we'll be selling a few drinks. Attendance is free, but if you'd like to give us a $10 donation, we won't say no. Then on June the 16th, Father's Day, we have our pancake breakfast between 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock. $15 for adults, $5 for children, and discounts to go on the various tours. And we also sell our lethal mimosas. So if Dad wants to get away and really slam into it and really enjoy Father's Day, feed him a few mimosas along with the breakfast. Then on the 20th, we have our annual showing of Casablanca, which is generally very well attended. So please join us on that too. And also, just by the way, June the 16th, Father's Day, best to buy tickets in advance. You can get them on our website, www. Thank you very much.
And thank you, sir. And moving right along, not too far. We always manage to pick up time. Diane, I see you're here.
And it's for, yes, the Women's Website. Thank you, thank you. We had our spring fundraiser, Bunko. And with that and previous fundraisers, we were able to give to the 3 charities chosen this year: Bay Area Rescue Mission with the Women's Center and Children, Richmond Swims, and St. Vincent de Paul. We're going to have a big project going at our map garden Friday. Our gardener who we were get help through our grant is going to be cleaning up a lot in that area. And our meeting is Tuesday, June the 4th. We're having our salad potluck mini fundraiser, $5 with us, bring a small salad, and $15 with no salad. Also, we're having our installation of 3 open positions: president, second vice, and treasurer. Layton will be our new president starting in September. Leslie Hicks will continue her second VP position, and I will be the new treasurer. And I must say, these past 6 years, it has been a pleasure to serve the Women's Website and the community. I've really enjoyed it. And then we're ending with our Hat Day stories, and which is always a fun time. And thank you. Our season will start. We're off in July and August, and then we're back in September.
Thank you, Diane. For Anna's benefit, could you, because you broke up a little, could you please clearly say the name of the new president?
Oh, Doreen Layton.
Thank you. It kind of broke up a little bit. And Peter is somewhere driving across the Midwest. Gary. So we'll go on to Rosie the Riveter and hear from Jim.
Yes. First of all, Fridays, which we have traditionally set aside for live speakers, we will continue to do that. In the morning will be Rosie's. These are women who've actually worked in the defense industry in World War II. And then a series of guests who will speak about the Japanese relocation in World War II. I'll be giving 2 talks. One I haven't given before here, although I have in college, on African Americans in World War II. That'll be on June 13th. I try to put that close to Juneteenth. And then on June the 27th, gays, lesbians, and drag shows in World War II, to kind of round out the month. So that's what we've got going on for June.
Thanks, Jim. I was just in Hawaii at the Hilton Village, the famous Hawaiian village, and had no idea that it was basically built by Kaiser.
Yes.
Didn't know. Thank you so much. Let's go on to public forum.
Quick question, Jim.
We have a question.
Did I miss somebody? Oh, Anna, go ahead.
Sorry, what time for the presentations? Are they both the same for your African American and World War II on June?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Everything is always at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, would anyone like to speak in public forum? No? Anybody have any remembrances or celebrations? Oh, Gary, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I hope everybody had a good holiday this last weekend, but you know, I flew in the Air Force, and then we always connect back up on Memorial Day and remembering some of the folks that didn't come back. So just remembrance of all those of you that knew people that didn't make it back. And so it was a fun weekend, but it was a good remembrance to go back for the folks that aren't with us today.
Gary, thank you for reminding us that Memorial Day is not only about yard sales, mattress sales, and hot dogs.
That's right.
It actually should be about none of those things. So thank you for reminding us of that. Eleanor?
You're welcome.
Eleanor, can you unmute? I see you, Lisa. Let's go to Lisa and then we'll jump back to Eleanor.
For all of those on the call tonight who served, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Lisa. Correct. Eleanor, are you with us? We may be having a little technical problem. Eleanor, if you would like to put something in the comments, please feel free to do so. I will mention that although I do not know his last name, local bartender Alex, who worked for a while at several bars in the area, somebody might know his last name. He worked at the Hotel Mac for a while, passed away about a week ago, and was discovered in his apartment over the weekend. So just a little thought. He poured a good stiff drink, and he always had a nice smile. So I think the bartending community will miss him. And with that, I thank you all. I know this meeting was a little disjointed. Sometimes it happens that way. Charmaine always reminds me that the agendas are only a suggestion. And I thank her when she says that. Thank you so much for sticking with us for another 15 minutes, and we'll see you next month. Thanks, Edie.
Everybody.
Thank you, Edie.
Bye, everybody. I hope you had a happy Memorial Day weekend. Who's ever still online. Bye, Charmaine.